What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of the Oscars, the podcast that takes a look at the 2023 Oscars 24 minutes at a time. I am Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are going swimming, and we are forcing everybody else to go swimming with us as we talk about Ruben Östlund's Triangle of Sadness.
You looks paid for the tickets. Not bad, huh?
So what do you do?
I sell shit.
The success of a luxury cruise mainly depends on you. I don't want to hear anybody saying no. It's always, yes, sir, yes, ma'am.
A fashion model celebrity couple join an eventful cruise for the super rich. We are now on week 9 of covering the Oscars. Look at us, Ben. Who would have thought? 9 weeks in, man. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had already achieved this, but I've now finally seen all the nominees. This is my last one that I was hanging on to, this and All Quiet, which we covered last week. So this is the first time in quite a few years that I've watched all 10. I'm very excited about that.
I feel really proud to be included in that journey of yours. And I will say I beat you by a week, so suck on that,
That's
Ben.
Totally
I did
fair. Totally fair.
We are
after watching Babylon 3 times, you found time to watch other movies. That's crazy.
I found time, man. That's the thing. That's the special thing about Babylon. It doesn't actually take up real amounts of time. You enter into this kind of slip in between time zones, and it's just the Babylon time zone.
Bringing it up already. I regret bringing it up.
Well, before we go any further with our podcast, I do want to introduce our guest. Quite honestly, the guest we've been most excited to have on the pod. First time guest on this show. First time guest on any podcast, which we just recently learned, which is exciting. We have the social media manager for Letterboxd, Flynn Slicker. Flynn, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hello. Thanks for having me on my first ever podcast. I'm really excited.
But I'm super stoked to have you here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm really, surprised that you guys have watched all 10 of the Oscar nominations. I have not, which I'm really ashamed about, but
it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. You still, by the time this comes out, you still have 9 days to go. So
I keep telling myself that, but every year it's like, I still have, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks are up, and I'm like, wait, I don't know any of these movies.
Do you know what you have left out of the Best Picture noms? Is it a couple or is it a lot of them?
No, I think I've seen most of them. I have All Quiet on the Western Front left.
Okay.
Babylon nominated.
Yeah, in a better world, it's nominated.
In the multiverse, yeah.
I guess that doesn't count for Best Picture. Yeah. So there's a few, but
yeah.
Nice. Well, Flynn, you brought this upon yourself, and I try to make a point of it for every episode of the pod. Before we get too deep into the conversation, Babylon, how do you feel? You pro Babylon? Are you part of the Hive? And I just need to know.
No, I haven't seen.
Oh, you haven't seen Babylon?
Yeah.
No,
oh, great. Okay. That's totally fine. We'll have you back on once you've seen it so you can feel what it's like to join such a wonderful community. That doesn't include Ben.
Weird because I when it first came out, I think there was a lot of hate on it on film Twitter, which film Twitter is this whole other thing.
Yeah.
And then when it came out on VOD, that's when everyone was like, this is the most amazing movie ever. You have to see it. And I was like, okay, I should watch it now. But yeah, I'm just waiting until it comes out on streaming service. Yeah.
That's fair. I
like that.
Awesome, Flynn. So I gotta know, there is a video of you. So you do work for Letterboxd, which is kind of pretty fucking cool. And there's a video of you. You got the chance to go inside the Criterion closet. I just want to know, can you give me a firsthand retelling? How is the Criterion closet? Because I'm 1 degree away and I feel pretty good about it now.
Oh my God, it was so terrifying when I feel like I should not have been there. It was total imposter syndrome. Why am I here when there's so many people that have been in here that are so much cooler? But walking in, it's tiny, I don't know, on camera everything seems bigger. So when you're going in there, it's you can barely fit your shoulders. There was 3 of us in there, so we were all crammed.
Yeah, you guys are packed in there.
Yeah, and I think I took one too many things. They were a little
Oh,
but,
really?
Wow.
No, I was I had this whole stack, and I was like, is this okay? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. But yeah,
cool.
And then they put our Polaroid up on the wall with everyone else's, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so honored.
Wow.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's really
I
cool.
like was very envious about that. That's like some weird like dream at some point. It's just even just to see it. So that's way cool.
Yeah. It
And-
still feels like a dream, even though I'm like, it happened. But when I was there, I was like lightheaded, and then I left, and I was like, wait.
I mean, like, I think just like even just with this Oscar run, like they've had the Daniels in there. I think wasn't Kate Blanchett and Todd Field were in there at the same time. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy the people that have been in there. I think that's awesome. So yeah, good job.
Yeah.
That's way cool.
And you picked up the Before trilogy, and that's why I had to ask you, because like I adore the Before trilogy, and I had previously purchased it from Criterion a few weeks before that, and I was like, yes, Flynn, like we're best friends already because the Before trilogy unites us all. Yeah, that's incredible. All right, let's talk about some Oscars here. So I'm curious, from your standpoint, Flynn, you mentioned you haven't watched all of the Oscar nominees for this year. What's your relationship with the Oscars in general? Do you watch them every year? Do you care a lot? How do you plan on watching them this year if you're going to? Give us the down low.
Okay, I've like watched the Oscars a lot when I was a kid. Not like for particular movies or anything. I think when I was younger, it was just like, oh, this is fun to watch like a bunch of celebrities do like speeches and stuff. But I think my earliest memory is when Leonardo DiCaprio won the Oscar. I think I was sitting in my kitchen, like watching it on our tiny TV, and I was like, oh my God, he won. And I wasn't like particularly the biggest fan, but I think like the fact he won that year and like everyone says he's been like snubbed for earlier nominations, I was like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah. And then I guess now that I'm like in the film industry, I watch it more of like it's not like work necessarily, but it's, I don't know. It feels more fun because I like get to watch, I mean, almost all the movies every year. And I'm like definitely rooting for more people in the past 2 Oscars than I ever have, because I, have interviewed some of the people that are being nominated, and it's like really cool to see Paul Mescal, like just crazy
Shout
like
out.
blow up that he's had. So yeah.
That's rad. Yeah, and it's like not like work in terms of like boring or anything like that, but I think it's part of your job. You got to stay like on the pulse. Being the social media manager, you got to stay up on it. So that's so cool. Yeah, I like hearing everyone's kind of their story of how they came about to the Oscars.
Yeah, that's super rad.
I'm curious about your guys' relationship.
Yeah.
Go for it, Ethan.
No, I was literally going to say Ben has a much deeper relationship with the Oscars than I do. So why don't you start, Ben?
I think the first time I really remember them consciously was the Titanic, because it was just like, oh wow, this was nominated for like 14 things or something like that, and it's like no movie at that point in my life had done that before, so it was like a thing. It's like, oh wow, this is crazy. Like this has so many nominations. So that's the first one I really remember like paying attention to and stuff. And then I've always like since a kid just wanted to be in like my dream job as a child was to be an animator for Disney. So I've always really liked, animated movies and stuff like that. So I try to keep up on that, and then eventually got into film production and video editing. And so, yeah, it's just like, you can't help but just get bigger and bigger every year and just like more invested in it and stuff. So it's just, I mean, I said on some other episode, I don't remember, but it's just like, it's the biggest night for movies, and honestly, it kind of doesn't matter at all. Like it means everything, and it doesn't matter because it's just like, whatever. There's like all the politics in it too, but it's just like it's cool to see people dressed up and being cool and like celebrating each other. I think that's my favorite thing is like seeing everyone's reaction. Honestly, like when they lose, because they're usually so excited for who won. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, oh my God, that person won. Like that's so cool. So I just love it feels like a night of camaraderie, I guess. So.
Yeah.
And I think I think like this year more than ever in the other awards that there has been this year, I feel like people are really rooting for each other, especially like Kate and Michelle. Like whoever wins, they're always just like so happy for each other.
Yeah. Just so rad.
Big time. I have a lot lamer of a story. Like I found my passion for film a lot later in life, and like I'm in grad school right now for film studies, and that's because I didn't know like I liked movies when I went to college, and so now I'm learning that about myself. And so I think really in terms of the Oscars, like the first year I remember was 2019, and much to the chagrin of you, Ben, is like when I saw Uncut Gems and when I saw Joker in theaters in 2019, I was like, oh fuck, like movies are kind of crazy. Like you can do some wild stuff. And then Joaquin Phoenix wins for Joker, and then obviously you have That's Marriage Story year, and you have lots of big things happening in 2019. And that was really the first year that I wholeheartedly watched the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, 2020 and 21, you have the big Anthony Hopkins win over Chadwick Boseman. And that was like my first time experiencing a live snub where I was just like, what are we doing? What is going on? How does this even happen? And then the slap last year. So I've had a whirlwind of 3 years dedicated to the Oscars. But yeah, it's been really fun. And much like you guys, like, I think it's just rad to get up there and watch people, you know, root for each other and like get celebrities dressed up and like memeable moments. Like that's incredible stuff. We all live for that kind of stuff. And, you know, speaking of people rooting for each other, getting up on stage, winning awards, the SAG Awards were just a couple of nights ago, and big winners, some shocks, some really big shocks, which, you know, go hand in hand with this episode. We're talking about Best Supporting Actress in the Dolly De Leon aspect of Triangle of Sadness here. And Jamie Lee Curtis won over Angela Bassett at the SAG Awards, which is some wild stuff. I think opens the door for the Oscars race. So I'm really curious to know, Flynn, I'll start with you and Ben as well, because this is an ongoing conversation that we continue to have week after week. Michelle Yeoh wins for Best Actress at the SAG Awards. Cate Blanchett has not done very well in terms of like precursors for the Oscars, and Everything Everywhere All at Once continues to gain more and more and more momentum. They win Best Ensemble. They win a lot of other awards at SAG. But it's still down to Cate and Michelle. It still feels like that is an all-out battle. Do you have your money on Cate or Michelle, one or the other? How do you see this race playing out for Best Actress?
Ana de Armas Blindside. I think it's how it's going to go. You know, just out of nowhere, she's going to, the one award she'll win this whole season. Yeah, I don't know. I'm so conflicted on it because, I mean, Everything Everywhere is my favorite movie of last year. I think Michelle's performance was amazing, but I can't take away from Cate in Tar. Like she really carries that movie. She does a wonderful job. I wouldn't be upset if either of them win. My heart wants Michelle, but my head thinks like, I don't know. This is like, that's what goes into it so much. It's like, are they going to give Cate her third one? Or is this going to be kind of like the Leo situation of like, man, we've never recognized Michelle before and she's done a lot of great stuff. Like, not that this is like a give me like a whatever, but it's like, we also haven't like recognized her enough. So this would be a great one to give it to her for. So I don't know. I honestly, this is the one award out of everything like on the ballot that I'm probably just going to wait until like 5 minutes before they start to pick something. So I'm like, I have no idea. It just keeps going so back and forth. Like, yeah. And it feels like Everything Everywhere right now is the wave, you know, that everyone's riding. So I'm hopeful for Michelle, but it's hard when, you know, you're up against someone who's already won twice, because they do love giving people awards that they've given awards to before as well, you know? So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. What do you think, Flynn?
Oh, God, I don't know. I feel like in the years that I've been like really into the Oscars, like there hasn't been this like tight of a race before.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. Sorry, Ben, I liked Tar a little bit more. So I think I think I would like Cate to win, but at the same time, like Michelle definitely deserves it as well. So I like would not be mad either way. Like I think it's very like 50-50.
Yeah.
I just really loved Cate's performance. So I don't know.
It was so good. And that's like, I agree with you. Like, it's just like they are, for me, like split down the middle. They both gave such powerful, great performances. So like, I won't be bummed either way. But I just like, it's just like my heart was like, oh, it'd be cool to see Michelle take it, but you can't argue what Cate pulled off in that movie. Like it's so intense. If she's not that good, the movie's not that good, you know, and she's fucking amazing. Like she doesn't have like the visuals and all that kind of stuff that Michelle does with Everything Everywhere. You know, it's her and she gives a great performance. So I would never be more scared than when she's like threatening that little girl. I was like, oh fuck, I do not want to mess with Kate Blanchett ever. So yeah,
they're very like different performances as well.
Yeah.
So, like I have no idea how it's gonna go.
Yeah, I think that's what makes part of this race so fascinating. Is there two very distinct performances from two exceptionally different films, and the tones and the vibes and the themes, everything could not be more opposite. I really feel like. So I do think it'll kind of really come down to the wire, and I'm curious that if Michelle does take home this Oscar, I feel like that's kind of a lock for Best Picture for everything. I feel like that's the wave, and that is going to get them what they need to get to the finish line. But we've seen in years past, being in the top spot, being in the lead for Best Picture, or Best Actress, or any other category leading into the Oscars is a pretty dangerous spot to be in. There's a huge target, and it is entirely possible to like burn out the momentum and burn out the steam before you get to the voting week and before you get to the night of the Oscars. So I'm a little worried if that might happen. I think after SAG, Everything Everywhere is going to lock up more awards than I anticipated or than I thought, but I still am holding out for Kate to win in this. I just think that is kind of been the constant of like, well, we all knew she did it. She came and she didn't mess around, and this was the year, and she did what she had to do. And like it just feels like that for me personally. So I'm really curious to see how it plays out. Let's talk about Triangle of Sadness. Let's talk about what we came here to talk about, because Flynn, when I initially DM'd you and I was like, hey, do you want to be on the pod? Like, here's how it's going to go. Here's the list of movies that we have. First one you said was Triangle of Sadness. You jumped on it. You were all about it.
Yes.
Tell me how you feel about this movie. How many times have you seen it? What's the deal here?
Oh my God, I love it so much. I saw it first at New York Film Festival. There was a screening at a Regal in New York, and I went and just, oh my God, I have not had that experience watching a movie before. I went by myself, but it was like a packed theater. Everyone was laughing the entire time. People like gasping, gagging, just everything. I think it's the most like reactions I've ever felt in a theater from everyone, and like that kind of experience I think you can only really feel in a theater. So I'm really glad that I watched it that way first, and I gave it 5 stars, and then I went and watched it again like 2 weeks later, and I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Stars again. Which usually I feel like when I have that initial reaction to a movie, it's like, oh, I have 5 stars, and then I go and watch it again, and I'm like, maybe I like was in over my head. I'll put it down to 4.5, but it just locked itself in as one of my favorites of the year. So yeah.
See, I'm the opposite generally. I will try to be more conservative the first time I see a movie in a theater and try to take into account like, okay, it was probably my surroundings or the environment or like whatever it may be. So like 4.5 stars. Or 4 stars, and then I come back and I'm like, no, I can't play myself. I got to upgrade this thing. Triangle of Sadness was not that way for me, but I'm curious, Ben, how did you feel? Because this is the first time you've watched Triangle of Sadness. You did not get the chance to see it in a theater.
Yeah, I did not see it in the theater. I saw it at home, and this had the after sun effect for me.
Oh,
where
okay.
after I watched it and it was over, I was like, okay, cool,
Yep.
But then like as the day went on today, I was like, God damn, there's some funny stuff in there. Like I really liked it, a lot more than I probably would have. And that's like how it was, we talked about After Sun. It was just like, if I had come on to record right after watching, we're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Ethan. Like, I don't know why that was your favorite movie last year. But then the next day at work, I'm crying at my desk, like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's so beautiful. So that's kind of what happened to me today. Like I'll say like, my favorite part was the yacht part. Like I was 100% in on that. I love that stuff. I love like that crass humor, not necessarily just like shit jokes, but just like, I don't know, watching people be miserable or something, just like it cracks me up. I think it's so funny. And I think the weakest part for me was the very first act. And that's where, as we were starting out, I was like, okay, because I also didn't watch a trailer. I had no idea what this was going into it.
Wow.
Like, I knew the poster and that was it. So I had no clue. I thought it was all going to be on a yacht, because I think that's what the poster is, you know?
Yeah.
So when we start out with all this modeling stuff, I'm like, okay. And then we go to dinner and we have this whole, like, you know, it's one of those arguments that's not about what it's about, you know, kind of thing. Like there's like a deeper, you know, I think anyone that's been in a relationship knows what that's like. Like it's not, this isn't what the argument's about, but this is what we are going to argue about. And then, but yeah, the yacht stuff, I was just like 100% here for. Like, oh, I bought right in once that happened. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I knew we were getting chapters, because like they kind of tell you that at the beginning. And then the beach stuff was also great. But I think I had a hard time right after it finished of like, that felt like 3 very different movies. And I think it was like intentional, you know, but I don't know, for some reason, like I didn't know what to expect. And so the whole time I'm watching it, I didn't like just necessarily sit back and enjoy it and take it all in. I was more like, okay, so what was all that shit about the beginning though? You know, like while we're like in the yacht, I was like, why are we watching all that? So, but as I thought about it more and more, I'm like, no, like it's exactly what it was supposed to be. I had a really good time with it. It is, you know, it's in my ever growing letterbox queue of things to finally review. But I will say it falls in like the 4.5 area for me. Like I enjoyed it. I think it was like a perfect use of Woody Harrelson, you know, like I think that like his whole role was great. I know we'll talk about scenes in a little bit, but yeah, needless to say, 5 stars for me for like the yacht part, 4 stars for the beach, 3 stars for the beginning. So overall, it's kind of like the 4.5 area for me.
That's a solid breakdown. I appreciate the by chapter breakdown. That's a good play. It's a good play.
My enjoyment level throughout. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think so. The first time I saw it, I was able to see it at a place called the Living Room Theater here in Portland. And I had known, I haven't seen any of Ruben Östlund's other films, but I had known like this is really heavy handed. It's very satirical. It's like, I kind of knew the vibe and the tone of it. And I went and I was definitely the youngest person there. It was probably a bunch of old white people there. Same experience when I went to go see Women Talking, which was a very interesting crowd as well.
Yeah.
So my call to action on that is more young people should go see movies in movie theaters. But and I just had a blast. Like seeing this movie with other people is far superior than watching it by yourself or with your partner, like in your house. I definitely did feel some of that in home where I was like, I was laughing at things, but you miss out on that like ancillary laughter that's going on around you where you're like, wow, this is hilarious. This is great. Like the energy is really vibing here. And I think a lot of that plays into this movie. So I think it's got a really interesting, you know, VOD and at home experience that goes with it. I'm the same way on the act breakdown, Ben. I think the first act, I'm still a little lukewarm on, but it is the after sun effect. Like the more that I think about the first chapter with Yaya and Carl, the more I start to realize without that tonal setting in the very beginning, I don't think you can have the payoff that you have on the yacht and especially on the island. Yeah. You have to understand like where Carl is coming from, even trying to purchase an engagement ring, like on the yacht. Like that's because of that conversation. He thinks that he can still do it, and he thinks that he still can have that. Yeah. Would you ever buy an engagement ring on a yacht, either of you? Because I definitely would not. I feel like that's outside of my comfort zone.
That does not feel like a last minute decision thing, you know, just like on a whim, like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to propose. Like, no, that's insane.
Especially after Yaya was like, yeah, that crew member is pretty hot. He just gets mad small dick syndrome. And he's like, uh-oh, I got to put a ring on it. And it's like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
Flynn, ring, would you buy it on a cruise ship?
No. And you know, they jack up the prices probably 3 times. And no, absolutely not.
I thought that part was utterly hilarious because you get like the main woman that's kind of helping. I can't remember her name. She lands on the island as well, kind of the blonde chick. And she's like, oh, would you like me to style it on my hand so you can see it on her finger? And I was just like, this is unbelievable. Like, why is Carl biting for this kind of a thing? But yeah, I think you get a great payoff. I didn't feel the runtime. I think it feels really fluid. It feels really fresh as you go. And I do think that 3 kind of chapter structure does help with that. I think the island is probably the strongest in sense of like a complete package in terms of what it is trying to say. I think The Yacht is definitely more heavy-handed in that, and that is on purpose. And I feel like that is the tonal build out of what Austin is trying to do here. And I think the first is more mysterious and really trying to bring you into that world. So I really like this movie a lot. I think it is fantastic, and I love that it is up for Best Picture. I think that is an incredible thing. I don't think that we'll see another Ruben Östlund meltdown video like has happened in the past, but you never know. Fingers crossed. Flint, can I ask you, in terms of Triangle of Sadness, because I like this movie. It's 4.5 stars on my Letterboxd. So I've got a technical Letterboxd question, and you're the expert, so I feel like I can ask you. The like button, the heart. When do you use it? When is it appropriate? Because I always feel weird liking something. I feel like I gave it 4.5 stars. That's pretty good. What do I do?
Okay. Here's how I rate and use Letterboxd.
I'm so excited for this, genuinely, because I have the same question.
I used to be really like, oh, that's a 1/2 star movie. That's like 4.5 stars, just like throwing ratings everywhere. But now I'm like, I don't know what I would rate that. If it's in between like basically what I'm trying to say is I only give 5-star ratings now. Like if I
Interesting.
Sun, Triangle of Sadness, everything that came out in the last year that I watched and I loved, I was like, okay, that's 5 stars. Everything else, if I'm not like super sure about it, like Banshees, I gave 4.5 stars because I was like, that's definitely a 4.5 star movie. It could be 5 on a rewatch, but I've already given too many 5s from last year. But if I am not sure, I will just give it a heart if I liked it and then leave the heart off if I didn't like it and not give it a rating. So that's kind of how I Letterboxd.
I like it.
That's the slogan. There you go. Slogan for the pod. That's how I Letterboxd.
I think I've used it in the sense of like, I know this technically isn't a good movie, but I love it. Like my example is like Big Daddy. Like it's one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies. Like, but I know it's not a 5-star movie, but it is in my heart. You know what I mean? Like I objectively realize this is like at best a 3-star movie. Like I understand that, but I love this movie. So that's what I'm going to give it, that kind of thing. It's like, I'll recognize it in the correct ratings, but I'm going to heart it because you guys need to know I love this movie so much. So I think that's how I've kind of come to use it. It's just like I like this, even though it may not reflect that in the rating kind of thing.
So what would you rate it then?
Like I would give it the 3 stars. Like I think the rating system, I try to keep it as like objective of just about the movie, itself. And then, but if it is one of those where I'm like, I know this isn't good, but I love it, but I also fall back into that. Like, I'm sure I gave Hook 5 stars. Like, I know it's not a 5-star movie, but like it is to me. It probably just depends on like what mood I'm in. You know what I mean? Like same with, whatever that most recent Spider-Man No Way Home. I was like, they fucking hit me right in the nostalgia bone. You know what I mean? Like I got Toby back. Like I saw him in theaters. Like that's my first Spider-Man. You know what I mean? It's like I can't. There's no way this isn't going to be 5 stars from me. So it's always a mystery, but I like that. I like knowing how you use it now.
Yeah, that's good. I really don't have a plan when it comes to the like button. Here is my most recent example. I watched Reality Bites a couple of weeks ago, and I loved that movie. I just had a delightful time, and I cherished that film. I gave it 4 stars because I know it's not a 5-star movie. Like, it's no Aftersun. We got to be a little careful here with my 5-star ratings. So I gave it a 4, and I liked it. That way, I know in my heart, same as you, Ben, like that's probably a 5-star in my heart. Like that's feeling pretty good, even though I know it's not a 5-star movie. But yeah, I'm pretty stingy. I'm pretty stingy with my hearts, if I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of Oscar movies and Miracle. If you've ever seen Miracle, the movie fucking rips. It's 5-star heart. So awesome. So Triangle of Sadness up for 3 Oscars: Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Director. Flynn, what's it going to win? Put in your bet right now, and then when Oscars comes, we'll make an announcement how correct you were or absolutely wrong.
Oh, I don't know if it'll win any of the 3, just because like I didn't even think that it would get nominated for Best Picture or Director. I think Original Screenplay for sure. I like definitely thought it would get nominated, but Just my like, will it get nominated for Best Picture or Best Director makes me think like it won't win, especially what it's up against. Like it hasn't won as many awards as like Everything Everywhere All at Once. So like that place is just like, it's just kind of I don't know. I don't think it'll win any of the three, but I'm glad that it's there and that it's getting recognized. Like I was so happy when it got nominated, and what do you guys think?
No, I think that's like spot on. I'm the same with that. I don't think it'll win anything. And hot take, Flynn, I also don't think Tar's going to win anything, but we'll take that for what that's worth.
Okay.
Flynn, what do you think Tar is going to win? Because we talked about Tar on here last week or a couple of weeks ago, and Ben came in with the offer out of 6. I assume that you do not feel the same.
Wait, is it up for best? Wait,
Tar's up for best original screenplay, best picture, best leading actress, best film editing, and then two other things.
Is it production design or something like that, or cinematography, something along those lines?
Cinematography, we'd have to find out real quick, but
yeah.
I want to wait. Is Everything Everywhere All at Once in the screenplay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. Best original screenplay is The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, and Triangle of Sadness.
I'm rooting for Banshees.
Okay.
Even though I have Triangle of Sadness at a 5-star, I'm rooting for Banshees to win that. But now that I'm thinking of it, I don't know about Tar. You're
bringing us down, Ben. What is wrong with you, man? The Tarmy needs to lead into the Oscars, not pull back.
Listen, I'm rooting for Kate, and like I said, I think if it wins one thing, it will be that. But just looking at everything else it's up against, I'm like, I just don't know. Like, not that it wouldn't take like second place in a lot of these things, but it's just like it's up against some really good things. It's like Todd Field did a great job directing. We haven't seen you in 13 years. That's awesome. Unfortunately, Steven Spielberg is in your category. The Daniels, they're in your category. It's just like, I don't know that that's going to happen. Like, it really wasn't meant as a shot at Tar. It was just more like, it's an uphill battle, man.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed Tar for sure. It was like, I think Kate is like their one hope for something. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But that sixth one is directing, the one that we couldn't think about. So, I don't know. I feel the same though about Triangle. I think it's going to go over. Like, it's just, it hasn't done much yet, and or hasn't done much at all, basically. And just a lot of tough competition here. But I do think, listeners might be sick of hearing me say this, but I think the best way for me to judge it is like, if this is pre 2008 and we only have 5 nominees, I don't think this makes the cut, that kind of a thing. Like, it's a good movie, but if we only were doing 5 like we used to, this one isn't there. That being said, I agree with you, Flynn. Like, I'm glad that it is getting the recognition, because like, I don't know that I would have watched it if it wasn't nominated. So I'm glad it's getting the word out there. His other movies, I know, like Force Majeure and The Circle, like, great, and so it's cool to see this in that same kind of style. So I'm glad he's getting recognized. I'm glad the movie's getting recognized, but I can't imagine what it would take out of these 3.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't see it winning anything. I still think Tar is going to take home Best Original Screenplay. That's just like where I think it'll snatch a win. And I think Kate will as well. But I just don't. Triangle of Sadness just doesn't feel like it's got. I don't hear anybody talking about it. Is anybody talking about Triangle of Sadness like leading up to the Oscars? I don't see anybody tweeting about it or talking about it or anything. I don't know. Flynn, maybe you are more clued into that stuff.
I don't know. I feel like being like chronically on film Twitter, because it's my job. I definitely see like a lot about it, but not in terms of like, oh, will it win this or will it win this at the Oscars? Just, I feel like there's like lots of like circles of like people talking about it.
Yeah.
Just randomly, but not about like Best Picture or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Like, non for Best Picture, and it just doesn't feel like it has the energy there. But I'm glad that it's nominated, and I think it's a wonderful movie. I think it's fantastic. Let's go through some of these true cinema moments, and we can kind of hash out the movie a little bit and our feelings on some of these scenes, because there's a lot to talk about, and I'm really curious how we all feel. So I've got a short list here. first we've got the opening kind of modeling scene, that H&M and Balenciaga. Are you, Ben, H&M, Balenciaga? Which one do you more associate with here?
My budget is H&M for sure. So I'm much more H&M without a doubt.
Flynn, Balenciaga?
Well, I'm going to say the same because of my budget, but I have a resting bitch face. So, yeah.
You got the Balenciaga face with the H&M budget. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I like that.
H&M inside, but Balenciaga outside.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I love that. Yeah, I'm definitely H&M. Couldn't do Balenciaga. I'd feel too bad. I just feel like a mean person, and I don't have that in me. We've got the pasta dinner. This is kind of the first big thing that I have on here. Obviously, Carl and Yaya have a massive fight about money and who is paying for the check, and that conversation and that chapter kind of ends with Yaya basically saying like, "Look, I'm a model. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be someone's trophy wife. That just is reality." And it's like Carl kind of has to come to grips with that, and I think there's a lot to unpack in that conversation and what it can mean, and the fact that they're having this bad moment in this argument for 20 minutes or 25 minutes of the film, and they can't move on. And when you think it's over, it's not over, and they keep digging and talking and doing it again and again and again. But getting on the boat, I have the pasta dinner and meeting the king of shit. This guy is a fucking OG. He showed up the first time, and I was like, this guy fucking rules. I love this guy. and he fucks. Like, he's got his wife, and he's got his side piece, and he's just like hanging out. And he's like, I sell shit. He's a big vibes guy. How are we feeling about the king of shit around here?
Oh, I just love that that's 100% how he introduces himself to everybody. And he laughs inside every time he says it. He's one of those dudes. He's like, I sell shit. It's like, all right, cool, man. I like it. Those people that have they have their standard jokes or whatever. It's like, cool, man. Still rocking it. I like that. So
good for you.
No, he's the best. So after I saw the movie, we went to like an after party, and he was there along with Dolly. And I had to go up to him because I was like, I loved you in the movie.
Nice.
And he just had the same energy, I think, as he did in the movie. And I was like, I love this man.
That's incredible.
Awesome.
Good for him, man. I do
want to bring up the part with the runway. I think was one of my favorite parts of the movie before the dinner. And Carl gets booted off the front row, and then he has to go sit in the back row. That's when I watched that, and also Yaya walking down the runway, I was like, this is the most crisp movie I've ever watched. It's just very I don't know. When I watched it, I was like, this is definitely gonna be 5 stars. And I didn't even care what was the rest. Just that scene. I was in awe, I think. Yeah. So I love the first act.
Nice. That's really exciting. Okay, so then we have the dinner, and I think it's worth mentioning at the dinner too, Yaya, the thing is she doesn't eat the pasta, right? And I think that's very kind of plainly told and explained to us for kind of a bounty of reasons, but I still think it's worth bringing up because the king of shit, he is in this same social bracket, but he comes from a different era. He comes from a different time period. He was in the right place at the right time in Russia selling shit, and he is here. He doesn't have 70 million followers on Instagram. He's not an influencer. He doesn't get free stuff thrown his way because of that lifestyle. And I think it's a really interesting dichotomy of the old and the new wave of this mode of society that will never die. It'll just exist forever. And they're just really pieces of shit, honestly. And that's just how they operate in the world, whether it comes from one thing or another. And I do think it's funny that Carl is just so plain about it. He's like, yeah, she doesn't eat the pasta. And it's everybody should just know how this works. It's you're in a different world, dude. He's
the most poster child for the Instagram boyfriend, where he's just taking all these photos. It's all right, is this good? Whatever. That cracked me up throughout every time they would do that. And that's super funny because he knows his role. It's you don't take one photo, man. You keep hitting it. Once you think you have it, then we'll check. But yeah, it's a whole generational thing. So I think for him, he's just no, you're here. Why wouldn't you eat the pasta? It's there. That's why we're all here. This is good stuff. And from their perspective of the influencers, oh, it's not about what we actually do. It's about what we show people we're doing. That's why I'm here, is to show people what they could do. And he just I think it's so confusing to them. It's just wait, this is why you're here? It's just to pretend to do stuff. I don't know. It was a really cool, like you said, dichotomy, just the generational differences between them.
Yeah. Next question for you guys. is the next scene, actually. So when they are out on kind of on the deck, they're doing a little sun tanning action, and we get this guy that's just taking his shirt off. He's like wiping himself down. He's smoking right next to him. Is he hot or not? Because I don't know whose side I fall on here.
I mean, this hotness is subjective, man. You know, that's a
but I need to know,
hairy
man.
chest. That is a hairy chest. I feel like your fingers are getting tangled up in that, and you've got to cut your way out. Like that is a fucking hairy chest.
That's a force.
But yeah, I mean, he's an attractive dude. You know, like he's
pretty good looking,
working on a yacht and just sun kissed and just like muscly. So yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
I think I'm team Yaya here. He's hot. What about you, Flynn?
I think the reason Carl got so mad maybe was because he's like the polar opposite of Carl. So like
fucking pasty.
It's like, well, you're with me, but then you were like thinking this guy's hot. So I don't know. I think he's hot, but that's just me.
Yeah, there we go. Consensus. He's hot. And he dips from the yacht because Carl's kind of a dick. So that's unfortunate. There's that. Okay, the next biggest one here on the list, the crew goes for a swim. Now, this is the scene. My wife was doing homework, and I purposefully interrupted her because I was like, listen, if you're not going to watch this movie with me, that's fine. But I need you to see this like the next 10 minutes so you can understand on a base level like how magnificent this movie is. And yeah, it's really heavy-handed, and it throws it in your face, but it is fucking funny. And this is the scene that I chose to show her. She sees it, and I go, okay, like, this is over. You're good to go. She goes, nope, I'm roped in. She watched the rest of the movie with me. I did it, and I won. Nice. And she doesn't have a letterboxd, but I asked her, and I was like, how does that work in your mind? Like, you watched 90 minutes of a 2.5 hour movie. Did you watch the movie? Like, how do you feel? She's like, yeah, I've seen it. It's like, that's not how it works. But it was still a win. She watched the rest of it. It was great.
Yeah.
Everybody goes for a swim. And this is probably the part when I watched it first, I was like, this is really fucked up. This is really, really crazy. And the old woman just dictates everything about them going for a swim, and all the food goes bad and everything stops operating because this one woman is drunk and she wants people to listen to her, and they bust out the slide, which honestly looked pretty fucking cool to go on that slide.
It did look pretty rad. There was Flynn, you mentioned that scene for the first act of the fashion show, like between that and then like the whole yacht thing, like as someone who has watched plenty of Bravo in his life, like it was very much like Real Housewives of New York and Below Deck, like going into this. And so it was kind of cool to see that aspect of it, because there is like, I haven't necessarily dealt with it to that extent, but I mean, I did used to work at the airport forever. And like, especially when Sundance or whatever would come in, and people are just like, oh, will you come with me? Like, carry my bag. It's like, I'll give you $100. Like, no, dude, like I'm at work. Like I can't do this, It's just like, but these people, like, they just have that kind of money where they're just like, no, like, I'll pay you well. It's like, I get that, but I'm also on the clock. Like, my supervisor won't understand that I stopped doing my job for this. But it's just like, there's that whole, like, it just was falling on deaf ears. And she's like, no, I don't care. Like, I want you to do this. So that was a really great scene. I think that was a great one to like, start it out with Molly.
Yeah. What'd you think, Flynn?
Oh God, I love that scene. I'm just like, would that happen in real life? I like, because I know the part in the beginning of the yacht act, they were talking about like, yes sir, no ma'am. Yeah. Or yes sir, yes ma'am. So I think that just sets the tone for the whole entire act, kind of like they're really just there for the guests, but to what extent? And I think it really like pushes that extent. So yeah, I don't know. I'm like, if I was on that yacht, what would I do? Like, just be like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm very much a pushover, so I think you just you have to when you're in customer service.
That's one of the best exchanges, though, is just even between that girl in her head. It's like, oh, no. She's like, yes, are you telling me no? It's like, well, no, yes. Like that, just that whole sequence right there. It's just like, I'm supposed to say yes to everything, but there's no way I'm going to be allowed to go swimming, but this is what I'm being asked to do. Like, just her, like, internal struggle was great to watch that.
Oh, and it's like accurate depiction of customer service, I think.
Right? Yeah.
the food industry, like hospitality. I'm just like, oh God, I felt that before.
Yes.
And this is the first time we meet where we see Woody Harrelson as the captain, and he's like, "Hey," the co-captain knocks on his door and is like, "Hey, we got to go swimming." And I'm pretty sure he's like, "Oh, swimming? That sounds awesome." And it's like, "Oh no!" Like I don't know what's going on. That is wild. Vomiting in the dining room floor. This takes up a huge chunk of the middle of the movie, obviously, and this is where it becomes really kind of disturbing to watch and really takes a physical toll on your ability of like, how much can you watch the physical embodiment of super rich people like literally just like become the shit of the earth. And honestly, I started eating dinner before this scene, and then this scene kicked, and I was like, ruh-roh, this is not great, honestly. But it's got a great needle drop. I will give it that. When a needle drops into like the death metal, and then everything starts to go off the hinges, dude. I was like, this movie is just sick as hell.
I will say that fucking stoked me out so bad because I love that band, like, Refused.
Okay.
And that was like one of their popular songs called New Noise. And when I heard like the strum, I was like, holy fuck, I've never heard Refused in a movie before. I was so excited. And that's probably, what leads to me just loving the yacht scene. Cause I'm like, oh, I'm listening to just like one of my favorite bands, and just like watching this pure chaos, just happen on screen. I was lucky enough to have finished dinner before starting this because I probably would have been in the same boat. Like, I'm fine to watch it as long as I'm not eating, but it was, I don't know. I loved it. Like everything about that. 10 out of 10, no notes. I love that scene.
It's a lot. It's a lot to handle.
Yeah. It was a packed theater when I first saw it, and just people were like literally gagging. And I was like, growing up and hearing people throw up, like seeing people throw up, me throwing up is like my worst fear. And it really, I was like, oh no, do I have to? But it really didn't make me have that physical reaction that I thought it would. Just because I think it was like so just like bizarre, and it was kind of like in a, I wouldn't say funny way, but like you kind of have like that reaction where you're like laughing to the point that you're so uncomfortable, like or you're so uncomfortable to the point you're laughing.
And we set up that these people suck. So it's not like you're watching people you like suffer. It's just like, you know what? Fuck you guys. Like, you did this to yourselves. You made everyone go swimming. You made this food go bad. Like, this is the consequences of your actions, So it's just like, I mean, you feel a little sympathy, but overall, you kind of are led to believe like no one on here is a great person. So it's like, I don't know.
I kind of took it as too, like on my second watch, I was kind of like, man, nature is metal. Like, you can have all the money in the universe, and if there's a storm at sea, you're fucked. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, nature will always win out, and like Earth, or the world and Earth, and like that kind of distinction between like one with Earth and like one with capitalism and everything that entails, I think is an interesting kind of undercurrent there. Pew, pew, pew. I feel good about that one. The next one I have takes place kind of during the same thing where Dimitri, the king of shit, and the captain, Woody Harrelson, they're exchanging political and capitalistic ideas. They're reading Lenin and Marx over the intercom. They're playing a card game. I've never played this game, and it seems exceptionally dangerous where you just guess the color of the card. And if you get it wrong, you would take a shot. I would be out of my mind in 60 seconds. I adored this scene. I was like, this is it. And it is an even more vast, in your face telling of like what we have been growing towards. And Ruben Östlund like just doubles down. And I just like respect that a lot. And I think that's what makes me so attracted to this movie, is like that it just keeps going. It doesn't let off the gas on what it wants to tell you. And they're screaming and shouting. And Woody Harrelson's character is like, I wrote this poem when I was 6. My government killed the Kennedy brothers and killed MLK. And it's like, holy shit. Like, it doesn't matter what side that you are on. Like, you have trauma of some sort from this system that we've designed and created in the world. But I know a lot of people don't like this scene in particular. Flynn, do you like this scene?
Oh my god, it's my favorite scene. I think.
Let's go.
You say like the card game. Me and my sisters play the game high, low, same. So you have like 9 cards, and then you like put a card down, and it's like you have to say like if it's higher, lower, same, and then if you get it wrong, you have to turn it over. And we would drink while we're playing it. So if you got it wrong, we'd not shots, but
That's
glass
intense.
or something.
Yeah.
Or sip of wine. So yeah, that definitely would get us drunk really fast. So that scene I was like, this reminds me of me. This scene was just like, I'm already like not the greatest at like talking about movies and like why I love them. But this scene in particular, I'm just like, I don't even know what to say. It's just like insane. I love it so much. I was like laughing the entire time, but also I was like this in the theater, just like, oh my god, this is so good. Yeah.
This was honestly probably my favorite scene too. Like as much as I loved the vomiting, like with Refuse playing, this was the best scene of the movie. Like when he first finds the intercom, and he's like, the ship is going down, and he's just like, he's drunk and he's like, just having his own little conversation, whatever. And did he not eat the food then, I assume? Because like we know the captain had the hamburger. Like, did he just not eat? Like, I'm curious why he wasn't affected like everybody else was.
I think he just is
he's just drinking
he's
his
a
dinner
badass
kind of
motherfucker.
thing.
He just like goes through it, dude.
Yeah, so iron cast, stomach. So that was my favorite. Like them like exchanging the quotes back and forth and just trying to like one up each other and stuff, and just like the drunken chaos. Like if you've ever been that kind of drunk before, talking to someone and just like even just like messing around, goofing, like you what that is like, that like that chemistry or whatever that you make there. So I thought they captured that really, really well, and it was easily I think like the funniest scene of the movie.
And this is too when you get Darius, the co-captain, and you get Paula is her name, who I was referring to earlier. They're trying to get in. They're trying to stop them from this madness, and they don't let them in. And basically both of them are like, we're sorry, we won't do it again. Like, it's okay. And they just continue to do it, which I just like, it just keeps going. Like, it just doesn't stop, which is so fascinating. So this part, I'm stealing it, Flynn, if this is your favorite. It's also my true cinema moment. It's my favorite. I think this makes the movie for me. The next chapter, we're on the island. I have a couple things here on the island to talk about. Cooking the octopus on the island. This is where we get that first transition of power that we start to see really take shape. And I think what I picked up on the second time that I watched it, which was the most important for me, is without Dolly De Leon's character, without that, she is a toilet janitor, without that level of person in the system, society does not function. It doesn't work. And that gets flipped on its head here on the island, and she becomes, the key and the token to making this kind of like new society work. Thought that was really, really interesting. And I just love her energy that she brings. She's like, one for you, one for me. And she's like, nope, no, Paula, you don't get any. And I was like, fuck yeah, you tell him, baby. It was great.
Dude, I mean, that boss move of like not giving them more until they say you're the captain, like that was fucking so rad.
Power play.
Like, who am I? It's so good.
It's so good. Yeah, I'm such like a lover of Survivor. The TV show, which the new season just started tonight. Season 43, which is crazy.
Whoa.
Nice.
I'm a Boston Rob fan. That's where I end, but Boston Rob was tight.
He is the one person that I would have dinner with dead or alive. Like, that's my person.
Whoa, that's your pick. I love that. Hell yeah.
So this sequence, like the whole act, reminded me a lot of Survivor, and I think that's why I loved it so much. Like, the person who provides is the one that like you keep around and you kind of listen to because like you want that, but then when you realize like, oh, they like can't do anything for you anymore, you like vote them out. But I guess in this situation, like until you find where you're going, like you're never out. So yeah, I just that's how I kind of put 2 and 2 together. I was like, this is Survivor and I love this.
I love it. That's rad.
I think the very public, like palpable awkwardness between Yaya and Carl on the island is so cringy, but it also makes this chapter and this act what it is. Especially, and I'm jumping forward slightly, but especially when she calls Yaya calls Carl out and is like, "What are you doing with your hand?" and then goes and kisses Yarmo. And it's just like, this is anarchy. This is madness. Like society has fallen apart because like money doesn't mean anything here. And so like they don't know how to do it. And Carl quickly takes to that like understanding of the power struggle of like, if I just sleep with her, then if I just sleep with Abigail, then I get what I want. And that's how we're going to do this thing. And that's how it's going to work. Killing the animal I put on here because, God, Yarmo, that's my boy. That's my guy. And honestly, like I don't like that he killed the animal, but also like you did it, man. Good for you.
Eventually.
And you did it.
You eventually did it.
I felt really bad for him. I felt bad for all of them, honestly.
I know. We just did a reading Letterboxd reviews with Ruben, and we're kind of backtracking now, but I'm thinking about this now because you said you feel bad for them. Yeah. But in one of the reviews, he said that he wanted to make the vomiting scene to the point where he's like, no, please save them. Like, please help them. They've had enough. And then he was like, but I guess we didn't achieve that. But I think in the third act, you kind of get that sense of like, oh, maybe they need help.
Yeah, for sure. We get some sympathy for them there without a doubt. And like knowing the one thing I guess I did know about this was, Dolly De Leon like getting snubbed and not really seeing her at all for the first two acts. I was like, what is going on, man? Like I thought she would have like a more pivotal role. So seeing her not show up to the third act, but like it's understandable. Like I see what people are saying about how she got snubbed because she rules that whole beach.
One of the craziest moments on the beach is when Dimitri's wife washes up and she's just pale and dead, and he's like sobbing and taking her jewelry. And I was like, Dimitri, you sick son of a bitch.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know. That part I was like, oh my God, what is he doing? That's like,
it's way too much.
It's ridiculous.
It's kind of ridiculous. The last thing I have on here is, kind of that final scene. We find the resort. Abigail and Yaya go on a hike and they climb to the other side of the mountain, and they find a resort with elevator doors and dance music playing. And we get kind of this final moment, which I think has become very divisive for a lot of people. And seeing Abigail lift up the rock and get ready to kill Yaya, and Yaya says, "Look, when we get out of this, you can come work for me or something," which is just like a massive like sword into your heart. And it's like, no, I thought we were better than this. And then not knowing if Abigail does do anything, I think is very, very notable. And then seeing Carl run through the forest, that was money for me. I loved that so much. How did you feel about the ending? Because I have a follow-up question to this before we get to the last part of the pod.
I was like, Flynn, do you want to go?
Well, hold on. My cat is playing with his squeaky mouse right now.
Oh, okay.
It's like really loud.
Oh, I love it. What's your cat's name?
Weasel.
Hell yeah.
Great name.
He's sad now. Yeah, I don't know. The whole resort thing, I was like, is it real?
Okay, that's my question. Is it real? Do you believe that it's real?
I think yeah. Okay. Like, in other words, would they be like hallucinating it? Is that what you mean by not real?
If we had seen the hat salesman person come up to whatever her name is in the tube, if we hadn't seen that scene, then I'd be more inclined to like, man, was that real? Like, I have no idea. But since like they established that, I was like, okay, so that is an actual thing. And now, Dolly De Leon's, what's her character's name? I forget what it is. Abigail. She's just like, oh, I can't let anyone else know about this, essentially is how I took her actions.
Fascinating. I did not put that together until you mentioned that, Ben, of like, that was why she wanted to kill Yaya, was so she could get off the island and let these people suffer.
I mean, I didn't even think her getting off. I thought her just going back and continuing to kind of like be in charge.
Wow.
Just like, I'm not going to let them know that they can get out of here. I'm going to go back and continue to like get this young 20-something model to fuck me whenever I want. It's like, as long as I can get fish and octopus, like we're good to go. These people have to do what I want. Like, it's a total power play. So that's how I took the movement, was like, her just like, well, I can't let Yaya go back and tell everyone about this. And then obviously like she doesn't know this, but the other lady can't even talk. So like she can't tell anyone about that. The hat salesman dude. So, and then I took Carl running as just like, I don't know, I guess maybe like a bookend the beginning about like fighting for your relationship and him finally just being like, no, I like just in case, you know, like I'm just going to go like see what's going on, protect her, whatever. But yeah, that's what I thought. I thought she can take her out so that she couldn't tell anybody about it.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well when I saw it. I was like, she just likes being the captain and like being there for everyone and having everyone, you know, just at her beck and call, and didn't want Yaya to tell everyone. That's exactly what I thought as well. I don't really know what I thought of Carl running at the end. I guess it was just like running there, but it's very like open-ended. Like, what does he run into? Yeah.
I think I was more focused on Carl running because I took Carl running as like, like he put it together, but he did it too late. He figured it out. He beat the system, and he did figure out that Abigail obviously doesn't like Yaya because of this whole weird triangle of love that's going on the island and kind of getting in the mix. And because, you know, when they're in the love boat, he basically is just like, yeah, go for it. Like, you guys can do whatever. And he just like doesn't really seem to engage or care. And then he is literally running as fast as possible, cutting up his body with branches and limbs to try to get to where they were going. And I think he just like put it together too late and realized like, like Yaya's going to die. And like, I'm the reason, or like they're going to get lost or something. And maybe that's another way that you could take it, right? Like maybe he's not running for Yaya. Maybe he's running for Abigail. Maybe he doesn't want Abigail to do anything stupid. He doesn't want to ruin what's going on the island or something, you know, to some extent. I think there's a lot that could play there. And I think that really, really worked for me. I did get a text from a friend that watched this movie for the first time a couple nights ago. And it was a really long text about how much they loved it. And then a separate text was, I hated the final scene. And I was like, that's the bummer. So it does play differently for different people.
That was me too, though. That's why I said it's the after sun effect. Like when it ended, I was just like, fuck, man, you see it? Like, all right, whatever. Yeah. But then as I thought about it more, I'm like, yeah, no, it makes sense. Like she wants to maintain the power and stuff. But I feel like we all have the same true cinema. I just want to say quickly, though, like as far as movie titles being said in the movie, I really liked how this was done in here. You know, just like relax your triangle of sadness. Like that's a great way to reference to someone, like their brow, or you know, it's just like furrowing their brow. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Okay, let's wrap up the pod here with our final segment. We always do something that pertains to what we're talking about, the movie that we're talking about in terms of Oscars history. This time, we are actually going to talk about the Best Supporting Actress, because Dolly De Leon did pretty much get snubbed. Even though she's not in this movie a ton, a lot of people were hoping that she would make the ballot, me included. I think she is sublime in this movie. But we have, in the Best Supporting Actress category this year, we've got Angela Bassett, who... question mark is still the front runner. Well, I don't know that if we recorded this a week ago, I would have said she's got this thing locked up, but SAG can definitely influence a lot of things there. For Black Panther Wakanda Forever, we've got Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Sue, both for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Carrie Condon for The Banshees of Inisherin, and Hung Chow for The Whale, but really kind of pretty much for The Menu. That's my personal take on that one. So I'm really, really curious who is going to win. Dolly De Leon not included in this. Flynn, we usually go through and we just talk about some notable wins, losses, snubs, whoever you want to mention through Academy history for the category. What do you have on your list for Best Supporting Actress through the years?
Oh my gosh. Best Supporting Actress. I mean, is Toni Collette, would she be considered supporting actress for Hereditary? I guess that's best actress.
Yes, let's just say yes.
Yeah, either way, she needs to get mentioned.
Yeah, like I am going to be one of those annoying people and say that she was very much snubbed for Hereditary, and as is a lot of horror, I think.
Lupita with Us, like for sure.
Yeah.
Like why are they not nominated? I don't understand, but yeah, definitely Toni. I'm trying to think of other supporting actresses that you guys go first, and I'll
I'll go through mine. My heart wants Stephanie Sue to win. I think that was like the best performance, especially in Everything Everywhere. Jamie Lee is obviously awesome, and so is Angela Bassett. But I mean, Stephanie was great. Just some of like notable ones I want to talk about through history. Hattie McDaniel won for Gone with the Wind, notable because she was the first Black person to win an Oscar, which is kind of cool. 1939. Beatrice Straight won for Network in 76.
Network fucking rips. It's a
Network
great movie.
is awesome, and I think she holds the record for least amount of screen time and also winning. She was on screen for 5 minutes and 2 seconds, and she won Best Supporting Actress.
That's called efficiency right there. She's putting in the work and getting out of there.
Yeah, that is super efficient. A couple of my favorites, Marissa Tomei and my cousin Vinny. Anytime I can talk about Michael Clayton, I'm going to. So Tilda Swinton winning for that. And then for me, my biggest snub is Jackie Weaver in Animal Kingdom from 2010. I love that movie. If anyone hasn't watched it, please go watch it. She's amazing in that movie. She does a great job. So that for me would be my biggest snub. She was nominated but didn't win.
Nice. That's a good list. I just have 3 on my list here. I want to give a shout out for Lorraine Bracco in Goodfellas, 1990. Same with you, Ben. Any chance I can talk about Goodfellas is a big win, a good physical embodiment of film Twitter here. And I think she gets like the Best Supporting Actress / like overacting award from the rewatchables because she went hard in that role. Yeah. And it's really, really good. Lupita Nyong'o for 12 Years a Slave, I think is definitely worth mentioning. It was her first nomination, her first win, I believe. And that movie is really, really, really good. And then my biggest disappointment, my biggest snub is that Julianne Moore does not win for Boogie Nights in 1997. Boogie Nights is like on the cusp of my top 4 on Letterboxd. I just rewatched it for grad school. I just wrote a paper about it. I did a whole thing on it. And I was like, fuck, man, this movie is so, so good. And then I found out she was nominated. I didn't know that. And then she didn't win. And I was like, this world went to hell in 1997 when we didn't let her win an Oscar. So that's a tough one.
It is rough. And just a little behind the scenes for our listeners who don't know, every episode Ethan starts out by saying, "It's my dick. I'm the star. It's all about me." And I just have to sit here and listen to it. So
yeah,
every single week I have to listen to that. But
that's how I hype myself up off air, right?
You're a dirt diggler. Yeah.
I haven't seen Boogie Nights yet.
Oh, Flynn, you got to change this. You got to change this. I highly recommend.
I love Julianne Moore. I need to watch it.
Yeah, she was great. Flynn, anything else you want to add to your list before we do closing thoughts here?
Well, I hope Carrie Condon wins for.
Okay.
She's so good.
So good.
Maybe it is 5 stars.
Yeah, I think you've talked yourself into it on this episode. I think it is. Like, I hope it wins original screenplay. I hope Carrie Condon. Like, I think it's a 5-star.
Best Picture. I hope Colin Farrell wins. It just
5-star and alike. That's what I'm feeling. Yeah.
That's big energy. I love that. Any closing thoughts on Triangle of Sadness? Anything you wanted to mention that we didn't get to talk about? I just wanted to quickly mention that Harris Dickinson, who plays Carl, is sublime in a Sundance film called Scrapper. I don't know if it was picked up by a distributor yet, but Scrapper was so good, and he was so good in that movie. So if you see it come through the pipeline, try to watch Scrapper with Harris Dickinson. That's all I got. Ben, you got anything? Closing thoughts? Are you going? Okay, here's my closing question. This is real. This is my real closing question because I actually wanted to ask this. Okay. Triangle of Sadness is the only 2022 Best Picture nominee or 2023 Best Picture nominee to get on the Criterion Collection. Are you guys getting Criterion Collection edition of Triangle here? Do you like it that much?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah?
I'll grab it.
I love that.
On the Barnes & Noble sale.
There you go.
Once I get to go in the Criterion closet, I'll grab it for sure. I'll take that.
Respect. Same here. Awesome. Flynn, thanks so much for coming on the pod, talking about Triangle of Sadness. We are so honored to be your first podcast. That is incredible. Had a blast. If people want to find more of you, where can they find you at?
Oh goodness, Twitter at FlynnSlick and Instagram at FlynnSlicker, and then also just on Letterboxd every day at FlynnSlicker as well. But I wanted to ask, since we ask everyone, what's your 4 favorites?
Ooh, I wanted to ask you that actually. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot. My 4 favorites are, my favorite movie of all time is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And then Casablanca. The Godfather, and then recently Everything Everywhere did make its way into the 4th spot. It did kick out. It's such a bro answer, and I'm kind of embarrassed, but it did kick out The Dark Knight. But I fucking love that movie. But so that's my 4: Ferris, Casablanca, Godfather, and Everything Everywhere.
Nice. I can tell you that my top 4 will not be as eclectic or cool as Jonathan Majors or Julianne Moore, who just had like some wildly incredible top 4s. I was just blown away.
Did she call it Good Time or something, right?
Yeah, she put Good Time on there, bro.
Hell yeah.
She did it. Incredible stuff. Sebastian Stan, I think, put Boogie Nights on his top 4, which just let's recognize real here.
Right next to him.
Incredible. My top 4.
Sorry, he had a different top 4 when we interviewed him last. So like completely different. He had
really?
On it. So it was very strange. But yeah.
Interesting.
I like that.
So he
anyways,
switches
top
it up.
4. Oh.
No, I love that. He changes it up. He subscribes to that side of things. My top 4 is my favorite movie of all time, obviously La La Land, and I adore that movie. I recently introduced my daughters to some of the musical scenes on YouTube, and now they request them at night before bed, and I just feel like I've won. Like as a parent, as a person, feels really good. Uncut Gems. I feel good. Uncut Gems is the second slot. I've got The Big Short, which is a very eclectic pick, but I just adore that movie. And then Before Sunset is on there as well to round out my top 4. And I feel really good.
Not Before Sunrise.
Not Before Sunrise. Almost Before Midnight. I really like Before Midnight, and I think it is just like criminally slept on in terms of the trilogy, just because of they're older and it's a little bit different, kind of a tone and a setting. But I think it's Before Sunset, and I think it's because we get to walk through the garden and we get them sitting on the bench, and that is the scene that kind of sells that movie for me. Yeah,
I refuse to watch Before Midnight.
Stop.
No, I have not seen it because Before Sunrise and Before Sunset, like I just hold it to such a high standard, and I'm so scared. I know. You so have scared. So I'm like, what will happen?
I mean, honestly, we were talking about that earlier, but that's why I haven't watched Godfather 2, because I fucking love The Godfather and I still haven't seen it. I know. But I know. But that's like my reaction with Midnight. It's like, you love the first 2. You're going to love.
I know.
I honestly think my opinion is it's Julie Delpy's best performance of the 3. It's not my favorite of the movies. Yeah. Sunset's my favorite, and it's just like one of the best endings of any movie ever. Like fucking floored me the first time I saw it. I was like, oh my god. Like, so I mean, highly recommend, but we'll have you back. We'll talk about Before Midnight and Boogie Nights, and I'll watch Godfather 2, and we can chat about stuff we should have seen that we haven't yet.
I love that.
So what's your top 4 before we leave?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Uncle Boonmee, Who Can Recall His Past Lives, is my all-time favorite. I watched that for the first time in 2021, I think. Yeah. And it just
really never heard of that.
No, it's so good. It's a Apichatpong. I always butcher his last name. It's a Thai movie. Everyone calls him Joe for short because it's very hard to pronounce his last name. But it just came at like the perfect time where I was like, I really needed this movie. It's very like spiritual, which I'm not like the most spiritual person, but it just, oh my God. I don't know.
Nice.
I cannot say like enough about that movie. It's insane.
Yeah.
And then 2, which I maybe post a little bit too much about on Letterboxd, is Fallen Angels. But it's, I don't know, the visuals in that movie, I'm just like, that is what I want to make. And then, oh goodness, what would 3 be? Maybe, I think 3 is Song to Song, which is a Terrence Malick movie, and I'm not like a huge.
Oh yeah, is that one like recent, right?
I have the craziest story really quick about Song to Song. I was in the grocery store the other day, and it was on 4K for like $5. Never heard of it. Saw the cast, swiped it, put it in the collection.
Yeah, if you get it for $5, like you have to get that. Yeah, the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Rooney Mara is like the best chemistry I've ever seen. Oh my God, it like makes me.
Gosling's in it. Okay, now that's all adding up now. I was like, why did Ethan get it? Oh, because Ryan Gosling's in it. Okay, cool.
His chemistry with everyone, I'm like, God, he could like have chemistry with a wall. It's like insane. I'm like, how does he do it? I don't understand.
It's incredible.
And Rooney Mara, I'm just like, I'm in love with her.
Yeah.
And then 3, wait, let me look at my letterbox to see what I have right now. Because I think I
actually just pulled it up as you were talking. And you're 3 for 3 so far. You got one left.
Us and Them, which is a Chinese movie. It's on Netflix. It's very much like a devastating love story, and it's one of those hidden gems on Netflix that is an original that I would never suspect is a Netflix original, but it just is really devastating. I'll say that. That's all I'll say. And you have to watch, if you watch it, you have to watch past the end credits. It's
okay.
I've never cried harder. There's a review on Letterboxd that says like I cried so hard that my left cheek hurts or something.
Oh, nice.
Oh my gosh. I love Devastation. Live for it. Can't wait.
Well, you have I guess Before Sunset is maybe the happier ones of the, I don't know.
So you want to feel real sad, you should watch Before Midnight. Very
yeah. If you want to get real bummed out.
No.
Well, that's solid. Yeah, I haven't heard of like 2 of those movies, so I mean, more stuff for the queue. That's rad. So yeah, thanks again for coming on. I hope the first pod experience went well. Be stoked to have you come back. Yeah, everyone let us know if you think Triangle Sadness is going to take Best Picture, if it'll take any of the awards, or if you're going to pick up the Criterion edition. You can hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can see all 3 of our beautiful faces. And yeah, we're just there at 24 minutes of A24. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. And as the legendary and immortal Tom Cruise says, see you at the movies.